What up? I'm Trey Rowland. Just kidding. I am not Trey Rowland, and I apologize for not being Trey, because some of you come to the triple option to get away from my shenanigans on the bench. I am Brendan Sonnone, the host of On the Bench, and I have been welcomed warmly here to the triple option because Trey Rowland apparently just snorted a bunch of WrestleMania into his nose over the weekend, went on some kind of weird bender, and I don't know where he is. You guys don't know where he is. I am joined by Coach AB. I'm going to call him Coach AB all show because Trey's not here to make fun of me, and Kevin Little. Kev, AB, thank you fellas for joining me and for having me on and letting me host. I'm going to try not butcher this too much.
No chance, Brendan. No chance.
Yeah, we've had you on before, but having you take Trey's role just feels a little bit more like we're crossing worlds here.
Where is Trey, by the way? Is he in the gutter somewhere from WrestleMania?
So he had an absolute nerdgasm. I think Monday night he did a like horror sci-fi podcast, and he's basically limited to like kind of one-ish podcasts a week. So.
I don't know who got into contact with him for this.
I don't listen. Trey is great.
He's a man of many talents.
I didn't know he was into like sci-fi stuff.
Oh my God, Trey!
As long as it's corny, he loves it.
If it's weird, corny 80s ish sci-fi, he's into it.
If it's memeable, he loves it.
We love you, Trey. We really do love you.
Yeah, we miss you, bud.
Trey, I will try not to completely derail this and drive it into the side of the mountain, much like Willie Taggart did with FSU football 2018 to 2019.
Whoa.
I do have the mustache going here in honor of Trey. So, fellas, I don't know. We're about a few days from spring practice wrapping up. The spring game is on Saturday. So I think this will be a good time to kind of do a little bit of reflection of what we've learned so far this spring. We'll obviously get into video a little bit later on the show here. But I want to go over just some big takeaways. I've been at every single spring practice. Kev's been at a good amount of them this year. So we have some insight. We have some things we want to go over. And I want to kind of bounce ideas off of AB as kind of like the not outsider view, but he's watching clips. He's hearing feedback. He's talking to sources and kind of see what's like mixing, what's matching, what we're all getting together here. So I want to start off though here, fellas. Last week, you guys talked about the offensive line and whether it was a liability. This week, I want to start off with the offensive line and ask if it's still a liability. So news came out that Darius Washington is going to miss the remainder of the spring, more than likely. He's had a leg injury in this past scrimmage. And just to me, guys, this really shows how vulnerable FSU's offensive line still is. Even though we've talked about improved depth and some reasons for being optimistic, it's still, you're just one injury away from the whole thing really kind of being patchwork. So Kev, I'll start with you, man. Like, what have you seen from FSU's offensive line when you've been at practice and now knowing like, okay, Darius Washington won't be there for the spring? Like, does that shed a light on anything to you of just like where this offensive line is from a depth perspective?
Yeah. So if you go back and watch our video that we did last week, we've discussed in depth kind of how the tackle position has been the focus of the problem over the past few years, but we might have a little bit more confidence in the depth in that position right now than we do on the interior offensive line. And so losing Darius Washington is a concern for me, just in the sense of you have some young guys at the guard positions that are really unknowns as of now. And so Darius was one of those guys that, can play guard and can play tackle. And so he was one of those pieces that really gives a solid floor to an offensive line room. So hopefully he comes back. It doesn't sound like it's anything that's going to keep him out of playing games in the fall, but it really just kind of cements the fragility of the position still being one of those things where one or two injuries could lead you down to a road that looks all too familiar for Florida State fans.
So, AB, I have a theory here. I want to run it by you with that in mind. FSU has, let's say, about 3 to 4 spots that we expect to be open to use in the transfer portal the remainder of the offseason here. I have this out there theory. If it were me, if I had my druthers, if I could allocate the scholarships remaining to the transfer portals I see fit, I would not go with 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 offensive linemen. Shotgun scatter approach to just completely assure myself of, at the very least, depth at the position group in a pivotal 2020 for Norvell. What say you, Buy or Sonnone?
I think I would Sonnone taking 4. I don't think I would be opposed to taking 3. I would definitely look to take 2 though. Somebody asked me this question earlier today, and I thought it was an interesting one. They were asking me about Robert Scott and if he was just a guy.
Or is he more than a guy?
Well, at first the question was like, oh no, of course not. He's a good player. Then I got to thinking to myself, like, I don't think he really is an above average offensive tackle in the ACC. I'm not sure he's very far above just average in the ACC, and I'm not sure how high his ceiling really is at that position. I think he probably is a better guard than a tackle, but even still, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know the ceiling there. I watch him play. I've seen lots of film of him. It just there seems to be something lacking there that really screams taking that next step. So I wouldn't be afraid to bring in somebody to try to continue to push him, because right now Rodor is not going to be a player who's going to be reliable. They're bringing in Jalen Early and Julian Armello. Those guys aren't going to be ready for this season. And Darius is what Darius is. I mean, he's not a elite offensive tackle by any stretch, and he's probably a notch below Robert Scott, truthfully, at the offensive tackle position. I don't want to overreact to what's going on in the spring, because communication with that group is so key, and that's not something that they're able to really get down right now. That's something that'll be a much heavier focus when they get in the fall time, leading into the season. They're doing so much mixing and matching and moving guys around that you are missing that component right now. So I don't want to overreact to what's going on. I do think the position is a concern, and you're going to have to you can't rely on Zane Herring. You can't rely on Lloyd Willis. You can't rely on Rodor. You can't rely. I'm not 100% you can rely on Caden Lyles at this point. You can't rely on Thomas Schrader at this point. So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys who leading into spring, you were thinking, okay, some depth, but realistically, probably not.
Yeah, they have 16 scholarship offensive linemen, and Coach AB just ruled out about 5 of them right there.
Am I wrong, though? I mean, am I wrong?
So the 2 guys that I think that I would push back on some, and this isn't like a adamant pushback, is Caden Lyles. I think we're still kind of seeing. Josh talked about this on OTB, which, by the way, this episode will air on the bench on Thursday morning. So hopefully you guys enjoy this collaboration between the triple option and on the bench. But Josh spoke to Dylan Gibbons on his podcast. So podcast inception going on here. But Dylan had mentioned that, for Caden Lyles, and I think Norvell mentioned this the other day too, there's a transition going on here where he's only been here for a few months, and he's learning a new offensive scheme with new verbiage. And so, and maybe you just alluded to that too, like there's still this learning process going on. We're not seeing a complete version of what Caden Lyles is going to be. I will say the part that gives me a little bit of pause with him is like in the one-on-ones and stuff, like when he is able to anchor, like you're not pushing him back, which is great. That's an upgrade over what Maurice Smith has, but there's some athletic limitations that I've seen that I'm not sure if that gets better over time with more confidence, with being able to play faster. I think there is some limitations of what he can do, like climbing to the second level and being able to maybe handle stunts and some of the more athletic linemen, interior offensive linemen in the ACC. So that's one guy that I think will help. I still would say that I think he'll start this season. If you'd asked me before the spring, I would have said 100% he would start.
Sure.
Now I'm probably like at 70%. And part of that is Maurice Smith has looked adequate. And that's because he's been able to be healthy and have time to kind of heal, and that back's not bothering him as much. But they would ideally love for him to have a whole year to kind of put on weight, not play injured, and then go into 2023 just at 100% of what he can be. And Thomas Schrader has looked okay. I was going to say, guys, like he's getting more and more of a workload on him, but he's still really, really limited. So we'll see what, I guess, 4 or 5 months can do for him. What were we going to say, Kev?
I was just kind of elaborate a little bit on why Caden Lyles, why this center position is so important, and why it seems like, when you talk about offensive linemen, usually you're not talking about how quickly are they picking up the system. But the center position is a different beast, right? So if you're looking at a blackboard that I have here, the center position is often the guy that has to set up the pass protections. So if you're doing like a half slide protection where this side of the offensive line is all going to slide one direction, just take the gap to the right. Well, these guys on the backside have to know how to pick up the rest of these three guys, right? You have the running back and the guard and the tackle picking up three guys. And so there's got to be a communication there. And oftentimes the center position is the guy that's seeing the field the best. He's communicating. He's calling out what's called the mic. So the mic is often how teams will kind of set their protection schemes. And so it's really important for him to be able to pick this up. This is not a position you can just throw someone in that doesn't know what they're doing, because they're kind of that linchpin. And AB would kind of know this better than any of us as he played the position. But yeah.
Well, so I was watching, somebody had put a clip up from, I believe it was Tuesday's practice, and there was a play going to the right-hand side. It was a run play to the right-hand side, and put the chalkboard back up there for me, Kevin, if you don't mind. Yeah. And Caden and the left guard were working in unison on some zone blocking. And it kind of alludes to the communication aspect or in that kind of in sync aspect that offensive linemen have to get into when they're doing a lot of double teaming or tandem blocking. Caden had released, the guard wasn't prepared for him to release, and whoever the defensive tackle was, I don't remember who it was, kind of shot the gap and made the play. It was one of those things that I think that when we're in the regular season and they've had more time together, will have communicated that better. I do think that we're seeing some of that, and I think that that's a problem right now for them, but one that they know that they can get corrected with more time together. We talked about it on our offensive line video. What worries me about Keaton Lyles is he pigeonholes your offense, in my opinion. I think you will lose some of that exterior run game, the stretch zone stuff. I think you lose that with him because of his lack of foot speed, and that worries me a little bit about him. If you move him to guard, you can't run your gap stuff because you can't pull him. So it worries me there a little bit with what they got going on. I tend to agree with Brendan that he's probably going to end up being your starter just because of what they want from Maurice, because his long-term value is best if he could take this year off and get his body right. Because he's got to gain weight and get physically more prepared. But back to the original question though, which was, would you take 4 offensive linemen? I think I would definitely throw 2. But the problem is we're going to get into post-spring. We saw them, and I've heard Josh kind of talk about this a bunch. You had a lot of guys pre-spring that they just didn't pursue offensive tackles. Some of them were unattainable for sure, but there were guys that probably could have come in here and given you some valuable depth. You're a man of many theories. What do you theorize is the reason for them passing on some of these guys?
Even last year, the name is escaping me right now. He was the Memphis transfer who went to TCU, and at the time, the feedback that we got from a pretty direct source on this was they thought he was going to be more of a project player, maybe kind of like a Chaz Neal, where he's got the size and does some of the things you want, but really incomplete. Well, the TCU transfer is probably going to be drafted this year, maybe like a 6th or 7th round pick. But what would you do for a 6th or 7th round draft pick at offensive tackle at Florida State? So yeah, I do think a part of the component with the offensive line, and there's multiple things here to unwrap. I think one is, just like everything what they've done in the last 2 off seasons, specifically this one, I think we've seen is very chemistry based. Mike Norvell has his culture. He knows that it's still a budding program in terms of having leadership and having guys who practice hard, play hard. I think we've seen that more this spring than at any point in the last few years. So I do think that the talent pool gets limited some. They're very keen on do they have a relationship with the guy? And if not, do they know for sure that he's going to be mature? Kind of like a Dylan Gibbons, kind of like Caden Lyles is regarded as very mature. Like they may not have a high-end working relationship with someone directly, although Dilly may have known Caden Lyles, but in general, if they don't have that direct relationship with him, they want to make sure that they know they can trust that guy 100% maturity-wise. So I do think that limits the talent pool some. Secondly, as much as I could be tongue-in-cheek and say I want 4 offensive linemen, and realistically, I would maybe push for 3. And even that's probably overkill. 2 is probably the realistic sweet spot. But I don't think the amount of anxiety that I have over that, and certainly that the fan base has, if you go over to the Noles 24/7 message board, they do not like the practice reports. And we're not even killing the offensive line on it, but they're reading the tea leaves of saying it's not great. Internally, they're not as anywhere near as worried, or expressing that at least, and from talking to them, that we are on the outside. I think they feel like some of the things that AB alluded to of communication, of having just time to kind of gel together to learn the scheme will really solve a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the spring. So more so it's like, okay, will Darius Washington be 100% healthy and have a full off season? More so I think he'll be ready to go for the season, but will he be ready to go in, say June, July, when you're doing the heart of the summer conditioning program?
Right.
And then also a question with Darius is, I thought he looked a lot better at tackle even in the spring than he did at guard. I thought guard was kind of exposing him being, 290 pounds, getting exposed a little bit size-wise, where at tackle, his foot speed and stuff shows a little bit better. So do you have a starting lineup still ready to go? Also, with the offensive line, do you have a true right tackle with Bless Harris? I think he's far better than I expected. Kev, I'm interested to get your thoughts because you've been at practice. I thought he'd be awful and that you wouldn't be able to have anything from him, to be honest. Watch some of his Lamar film, but there's some core competency there. But he has apparently worn down in some of the scrimmages. I think he's been exposed a little bit as spring has gone on. I'm not entirely sure that he's a guy you feel comfortable with starting at offensive tackle.
I'm going to be very honest. I think he's going to turn out to be pretty good.
What have you seen, or what has indicated that to you?
I think he's got the athletic ability to play the position. What worries me is he's strong enough. I was watching him the other day, again on some of the clips and some things I've heard. I worry about his core strength. His arms get out. He seems to try to make up for a lack of strength with piss poor technique. Atkins got all over him the other day in a drill, and he's talking to him about keeping his elbows in tight, being able to shoot the guns. I hope a good 5 months will do him a lot of good. I do think he's athletic enough. When we broke his film down when he committed back in, what the hell, that's probably been November now.
November.
The athleticism jumped out to me. I thought the foot speed looked good. Looked like he bent well. I worry about his development, obviously being at Lamar physically. Mm-hmm. So I am curious what that can become over these next few months. What's his weight look like? I mean, he looks like he's he's about 300, right?
I was gonna say he looks 305, 310ish.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think that's going to be a concern. I think getting some confidence through strength, and I think some of the communication will help him. I wonder if you would be better putting a Dylan Gibbons next to him, veteran guy next to him to help out. I wonder if that would help at all. Of course, you don't want to mess up your left side. That's technically, you're hoping that's your strength. Bless he's got a long way to go. I am optimistic though, and I've heard some things that they do like his potential. Mm-hmm. I think that it is still a project though. I think it still is a work in progress.
So Kev, who stands out to you on the offensive line from when you've been there? Like, who jumps out as I feel good about, I know what I'm getting from him, and there's a level of a baseline of consistency and competency. Is there anyone?
I mean, I think Gibbons is the obvious answer to that kind of question. He's now on a second year. He's got consistency. He's got everything you need for a guard. Outside of him, I've been kind of disappointed in Lyles personally. You kind of expect this kid coming from Wisconsin. We watched his film. He was pretty solid. I think that 1 or 2 steps slow that he is, it can be a killer, especially if he's not communicating. It kind of exacerbates any problems that are already there. And I would actually say that I've been pleasantly surprised with Bless Harris. I think his ceiling is a bit capped. I don't think he has the length to be an elite tackle or anything. But like AB was saying, I agree that I think his athleticism allows him to kind of salvage situations that otherwise wouldn't be salvageable, that maybe he doesn't have the length or the strength for, but he's going to be able to get in the way and kind of, he's got good feet. And time again, when we see the guys that Atkins is bringing in, it seems like they're prioritizing guys that have good feet and guys that finish well. Let's say that just have like a tenacity to blocking. And so I see that with him. You see that he's going to go downfield. He's going to block. He's going to hit somebody hard. He's got good feet, but he's not quite at that point where he's standing out on any level. But I think he'll be reliable come fall on some level.
The way I've viewed Bless Harris, like how I guess the way that I viewed their view, Florida State's view of Bless Harris, was that he was brought in to be a swing tackle, ideally. Like that's the ideal world. And I think if that's what he is entering the 2022 season, then you hit on that. Then that he is going to be a competent swing tackle. He'll be an upgrade from last year when you're having to play Brady Scott or someone at tackle and having to really eat into your depth. So I do think he's a hit there. I am skeptical on what he becomes if he's your starting right tackle at the start of the season, like if he's one of your best 5. But we'll see. Like that, there is time to develop still some of the things you talk about refining technically. So we'll see. Kev, can you pull up my flow chart that I've been working on all day, trying to figure out how to use Google Draw? I'm like A/B stuff.
I got to get you on some Adobe stuff, man.
Yeah, and I also have to learn how to use the spreadsheet as well. There's a lot of grown-up things I have to do.
Let's go here.
All right, so this is something that I'm creating. I'm going to put on the message board as a work in progress. I want to get you guys' thought for this, but I thought the visual medium would be good. We have, countless threads. Someone enters the transfer portal, and it's always interesting to me to see what happens, how people perceive this. So prospect enters the portal. There's going to be a flow chart for those listening on whether FSU should pursue blank in the portal. So prospect enters the portal. Does he play offensive line?
We got to get you some arrows in here, man. What is this?
Oh, you think the arrows would be helpful with this?
I mean, it's a flow chart. There's got to be a flow.
There's a line. Just follow the line.
I don't know. I'm partial to arrows.
Immediate feedback on this flow chart is the fact that there's not a picture of Josh saying FSU will not pursue.
That's true.
Just fail at that point.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. I'm making notes. Arrows. Hang on. Arrows. Josh meme. Okay, got it. So let's work out just more the heart and soul of this.
Absolutely.
That's whether the logic is airtight. Since I've already apparently butchered the format. Does he play offensive line? If not, I say no. Only pursue if it's a surefire upgrade, but probably don't pursue. Do you guys agree that it has to be a starting play? Like, I think you go offensive line depth and be okay.
Yeah.
In taking in the portal, but if it's not a starter, any other position, like, including even backup quarterback, I don't think at this point I'm ready to.
I mean, how would you? I would pick up another wide receiver personally.
Yeah, I would take a wide receiver.
And he doesn't necessarily have to be a top 2 guy.
If he's a starter, I would take a starting wide receiver.
So a guy, like someone, if someone had like 300, 400 yards last year, we would probably say that's someone who's probably going to play at the Power 5 level. If they got
depends on where they got 300 yards. If they got 300 yards at Navy, then probably. If they got 300 yards at Washington State, I guess Mississippi State, they're probably the number 6 receiver and probably not worth anything.
Okay, so wide receiver. No, but I think ideally like a pass catcher would make sense. One allocation there, I think is fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
generally speaking, though, that needs to be offensive line. I mean, that's the focus needs to be there. If you're getting anybody in the portal, it's got to be offensive line. You can't not take one.
So does he play offensive line? Yes. If so, I think immediately you start looking. All right, get this guy help us. If he's above average, yes, offer him right now. Just go all in. Don't think about it. Don't spend too much time. You need multiple offensive linemen.
He has 2 feet arms, 2 foot long wingspan. Take him.
What if he plays guard? What if he plays guard though?
Take him.
Yeah. All right. I got a Ben Stiller do it meme. Do it. So yes, I'm with you. I think you take a guard. Now, what if Bama wants him?
Well,
if he's a good tackle.
Well, you're not getting him.
Well, according to my YouTube comments, you should get him anyways.
Oh, no. YouTube comments. Comment, subscribe to this channel, but also if you're commenting on it, I think very little of you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I got good commenters for the most part.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. So let's go to what if he was a blue chip recruit who hasn't played much? Kind of like the guy from Oregon who just entered. He was a high end 3-star, or maybe low end 4-star from South Florida.
And might be a cyborg because there's a potential injury. I mean, you know how Mike Norvell loves injured players.
From Oregon specifically. Hey, but you know what?
Ooh.
He's 1 of 1 so far. Trey Benson looks like a damn hit. Trey Benson
That's music
looks
to my
like
ears.
a hit. All right. And so finally, if this offensive lineman is below average, if he's really below average and awful, we're not that desperate for bodies. But
That's
if
fair.
the guy's slightly below average, if I'm talking about like 60 PFF grade at the Power 5 level, you know what? You have my curiosity, but now you have my attention. So
Yeah, I'm
FSU,
down with that.
hard up for offensive line still. That's what I'm saying. I think you still need to take 2 at least in the portal.
It's stunning to me in year 3 that they are still in this predicament.
Well, you got to ask the question: Where's the development? Like at this point, you expect someone to have been developed, right? Like where's SDs?
Yeah. So I was trying to think of that the other day, Kev. Like who? So of the guys that have been recruited in here, so most of the snaps have come from guys who were inherited that they had to kind of work on. Robert Scott has improved. I do wonder if there's a ceiling to him. Would you disagree with that? That he has? I think he's better than what he was. Also hurt a lot last season.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, 100% he's better.
So development there. Outside of that, like outside of portal guys, has there been?
Was Darius a Mike year 1 guy?
No, he was a Willie guy.
Okay.
20. Yeah, I think Randy Clements liked him.
He's a freshman.
Yep. So him and Murray Smith kind of fall in that
Schrader's
category.
been hurt. Schrader's been hurt the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Herring was a year 1 guy, year 1 Mike guy.
Yeah, he was technically committed to
Willie,
but yeah, he was part, and so was Schrader as well. Right. Lloyd Willis as well. Robert Scott was the only guy I think that was in that transition class that was a Mike Norvell find recruit signee.
Yeah.
So Herring doesn't look like he's, to me. No. Kev, you've been out there. He doesn't look like a guy you want taking a lot of snaps.
Yeah, he certainly hasn't stood out amongst the competition he's been playing.
Yeah, I agree. Rod Orr came in as a 4-star offensive lineman with a lot of upside, looking the part, but he is at least a year away from being ready to contribute, and that's a generous at least that I'm throwing in there, just very raw. Lloyd Willis, we mentioned as the transition class, and I think he's developed some, but you entered the spring hoping that he could be a starter for you potentially. I don't think you're there. So yeah,
which shocks me. That shocks me because behind the scenes they thought he was a 2023 guy. So yeah, I don't understand.
They've been trying to work him there too.
I don't quite understand the disconnect that if you thought he was a 2023 guy, why the hell you think now he's a starter? A potential.
Maybe hoping that. I think part of it was last year was kind of a wasted year for him developmentally to an extent. Yeah. I don't think he was as engaged as they want. So if you're kind of dangling the carrot of potentially starting, being a swing tackle, maybe that's a path to like getting you ready to go and engaged for 2023 would be my connecting the dots.
That makes sense.
So anyways, development hasn't been, to your guys' point, like hasn't been optimal. But we think Alex Atkins is a really good offensive line coach. Part of it, I do wonder, is like, do you have the talent / or if you do have the talent, do you have the guys with the right mindset? Like, you don't have that combination of player that you've recruited that is both high end potential and someone who's got their cut from the right cloth to be a starting offensive lineman by year 2. I just don't think they've recruited that to this point.
No.
And maybe that exists, right?
Yeah,
like with this upcoming class.
Yeah, maybe some of those guys that are coming in or that, but
but that doesn't help us in 2022. So, anyways, I think we've depressed people with the offensive line. Let's go into.
I do think it's going to be a better group than it was last year.
I do too. For all the doom and gloom, I do think that it is going to be better. I just don't think it's gotten to average like we were hoping it was going to.
No. But I think that this group does and I think this is something that I don't want to say they bank on it, but I think that they know in the back of their minds. They can do a really good job, especially with Jordan at quarterback, of hiding their liabilities up front. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's an important aspect to keep in the back of your mind.
So let's transition to the spring game is on Saturday, 5 p.m. This is the last triple option show before the spring game. Kev did a preview on like what you could look for a spring game. You know, what's beneficial thing to kind of take away from it. What are things that you kind of dismiss? And little birdie told me that Coach AB wrote something on the spring game.
Should be up on Tomahawk Nation maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I can write.
We'll check it out tomorrow and we'll see. We'll see. No, I'm just busting your balls. I felt like being like Trey. We'll see if you can write. All right. So
you write long sentences.
All right, good. So as we get to the spring game here, I want to collaborate on a list of 5 guys that we could all put together here. Between the feedback that AB's gotten, that Kev and I have seen from being there at practice, 5 guys who we think fans will either be pleasantly surprised with or will leave Saturday being like, all right, like that was either as good as advertised or better than I thought. And I will start off, I will begin the conversation and submit for one guy for the list is Trey Benson.
Oh, my man.
Trey Benson.
Kev, what have you seen from Trey Benson when you've been at FSU's?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about it on this channel, and there's actually I talked about him in the video that I did the other day, but he's got a top end speed and size that's very attractive for a Norvell style running back. If you watch a lot of Norvell's offenses at Florida State and when he was at Memphis and Arizona State, he's very vertical in his approach, both in the passing game and the running game. And so he wants these guys that are one cut, get up field. And Benson kind of fits that mold, right? The almost Antonio Gibson style, just kind of a bigger back that just gets up field, gets yardage, and occasionally just break one, right? Get to the line. I think that at Florida State, since Norvell's been here, he's had the backs that have the elite vision, like Trayshawn Ward, but don't quite have the elite speed or size. And so, but then you have like that guys like DJ Williams that have the size, but maybe not the elite speed. And so you're hoping that Trey Benson has the speed and the size. If he can have the vision, he's kind of the complete package of what Norvell's looking for in a back. And I think we've seen glimpses of that in this spring, and that's been very exciting.
AB, are you cool with us putting him on this list of someone to be excited about for the spring game and feel good about what you're going to see?
100%.
Yeah, AB's big Trey Benson guy.
I am a big Trey Benson guy.
Seems very excited about this. What do you like? So were you a fan even when the fan base was freaking out about
yeah, because I had heard that they maybe had a little inside help there on that one.
Little birdie knew that the knee injury wasn't as had recovered. There wasn't nerve damage and whatnot, which is a big deal. Yeah, I will say, like, even without us, like, we had that knowledge, and I was like trying to tell people, like, I don't think it's as severe long term as we're making out to be, but I still didn't know if like it was a good take just based on you were projecting a lot from high school. They hit on that one. Like
he's got his high school film, you could see he's got the size, the speed. Yeah. I worried about his lateral quickness some, but it sounds as though he's able to jump cut a little bit better than what he maybe did in high school, but it was a projection for sure.
And with the high school, like ranking had him as like a top, I think it was like a top 300, top 400 prospect. Like that's projected as someone to be like a late draft pick. And I think that's kind of like, you're looking at an NFL caliber talent. I don't know if he's special. I don't want to like mislead people that you're getting like a day one running back, but that's a guy who could play on Sundays. I think that's kind of what we're taking away. All right. So that's my first submission for a guy for this spring game that you guys should be excited about watching. Kev, I'll throw this to you, put you on the spot here. Who do you want to submit as a guy we should all get a little ooh and ah from on Saturday?
Oh, I think I'm gonna steal. No, I'm not gonna steal AB's answer because I think I know AB's answer. So I'll go a different route.
Oh, I was gonna say steal it. Put AB on the spot.
Yeah, do it.
Let's mix it up a little bit.
AZ is the answer.
That's not going to be my answer.
Oh, that is a hell. All right, so
why another answer? But AB will take it.
We'll go around to it. There's enough for everyone. Why do you submit AZ as someone that the fan base is going to be excited to see on Saturday?
He's got the tools. He's got length. So that's the big thing, right? So when you look at a corner, a modern corner, what I kind of think of as like the prototypical corner is this kid that's coming out of Cincinnati this year.
Sauce.
Yeah, Sauce. The kid's a stud. So if you haven't watched him, you should go watch him. He's like 6'1", 6'2". His wingspan is ridiculous. His hands touch the ground when he's standing there. Like he's just
they do legitimately hang below the knee. Like that's not an exaggeration. His hands or arms are freakishly long. It's crazy.
And that length just allows you to make up for a lot of maybe if you've lost ground or win some of those jump balls. A lot of those glance routes or slant routes over the middle allows you to kind of break on those a little bit faster. And we've seen glimpses of AZ being able to do that. I think right now he's a little bit of a longer guy, which is an advantage, but it comes with a disadvantage of being a little bit slow on those like in-breaking quick routes. And so it'll be interesting to see how he kind of continues to adapt to that. I think he does well when he's matched up on bigger guys like Deuce Span or Portier or whoever. But I think he might have a little bit more trouble if they're able to match him up on a smaller, shiftier wide receiver like Micah Pittman or Ja'Kai Douglas. I think you'll see that length kind of be a detriment in those situations, but it's one of those things that will be fixed with time as he gets better reading guys off the line. But I think it'll be so obvious to everybody else, like it has been to everybody that's been at practice, that the kid's just kind of built differently, and he's the prototype of what you want in a modern corner.
They missed on his ranking. That kid should have been a 5-star. They absolutely missed on his ranking. The kid is Jalen Ramsey 2.0. We'll see if we'll see if he turns into that or not. But his size, his speed, his athleticism, I mean, he is a freak show.
I think we had him as like a top 100 recruit. So I don't know. Well, Jalen was cut from a cloth of like this feistiness, and AZ's certainly competitive, but he's a little bit more quiet, more even keeled. Now he has this level of maturity to him that I think will certainly help him play early on. I don't know if he's Jalen Ramsey start on a really great team good, but he's going. I'll put it this way: I watched first day of practice, I'm like, that kid's playing on Sundays. And part of it is there's not a lot of Sunday caliber players on this roster still, so it does stand out. I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, it's just Jermaine Johnson was kind of the same thing. You walk by, you're like, yep, that's what that's supposed to look like. AZ, a similar type of feeling from him. I'm with you, Kev. Like, I think that's a guy who, when fans, they can hear about us, talk about him, or see the videos, clips, and whatnot, but like to actually see that in person or watch it through a live game on TV, you'll see the size, the speed, the length, that fluidity at that length. It's impressive. That's a good submission. So since you didn't steal AB's, AB, you're at bat here.
Well, I was going to say Micah Pittman, but I'm not going to say Micah Pittman. I'm going to go with Derek McClendon because I think everybody said that he's, he obviously called his shot with he's the best DN in the nation or whatever that quote was. I think that's a bit overzealous, but I think the fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with what he's developed into. And is this year 3 for him or year 4? I mean,
this will be year 4. He was a 2019 guy.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's going to be a consistent performer for them. I don't want it to seem as though he's, Keir Thomas or Jermaine Johnson, obviously, but I think that he's a guy who's going to be a pleasant surprise in his 4th year, that they're going to be able to get starter type snaps from him, and he's not going to be a liability. I mean, he's a guy who 4 sacks last year, 5 sacks. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was either the PFF has different, so I confused me. I think it was 3.5 to 4, somewhere in that range.
I mean, I think he's a guy that you can maybe project to double that number, potentially get into that 7-ish range, which I think is a hell of an upgrade. So for me, he's just a guy that I'm really pleased has taken that next step in maturity and in focus. And I think he's a guy that the fans are going to see, depending on how many snaps he ends up playing. But I think fans are going to be pleasantly surprised in what they get from him.
his body composition is totally different, which I
Yep.
think people will see right away. So that's a good submission. I like it because of that. Like you'll see him, and the coaches have talked about this too. Like the way he moves is a little bit different than it was at any point last year. That's what losing 15 pounds but adding muscle will do for you. And that's not spring bull crap. Like he actually
Right.
has lost weight and
He
his
does
muscle
look a lot
mass.
better.
It's all about muscle mass, right, Kev?
Yep.
about
That's, it's got to tack on mass.
It's the implication. So if the one thing I will push back on having him as one of our 5, can we have both him and Jared Verse on the same list? Because Jared Verse definitely has to be on that list in terms of
Sure.
you'll see him. All right, so we'll put
Yeah.
so we can all
Defensive end room.
collectively-
I think they're a tandem. I mean, they're going to play in tandem throughout the season. We would agree with that, correct? I mean,
I think
I'm
in
sure
pass
their
rush
pass
situations,
package. Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
those two guys on the outside, and you kick Dennis Briggs inside.
yeah.
Ideally.
So I think that pairing the two of them together is probably the right call.
All right, so we'll put Jared Verse on this
But
list.
talk
as well.
about Jared. You mentioned him. We won't include him. But take some time to talk about him.
So Jared Verse is getting better and better. Like if you want to like break up the spring by like every 3 or 4 practices each week or something like that, each segment, each station, each pod of spring practice, he's gotten better. And I think that's what you're excited about. Freaky athlete, not we're gonna get the Jermaine Johnson comp just because of defensive end. He recruited him. They're not the same type of player. He's shorter than Jermaine Johnson is. He doesn't have that freaky wingspan. He may have better like core strength, run edge setting ability when it's all said and done. But Jermaine Johnson was like 22, 23 years old when he got here. I think Jared's about 20 years old. So there's still development. But in terms of having these freakish athletic skills, I'm sure like I wish I had the access to the GPS and what it said about Jared Verse, because his ability to go from start to max speed just seems different than any other front 7 defender that they have. I'm including linebackers as well. I guess it's technically front 6 because they're going to be running mostly nickel this year. But yeah, he's so freaky good, but he's also really competitive and gets after it. His instincts are still developing. Apparently, like during the scrimmage this past Saturday, I was told he had 3 sacks. And someone said, like, hey, he doesn't even quite know what he's doing still in the scheme. That does get them in trouble with run fit sometimes. Yep. But the fact that he's making plays without really knowing the scheme or
you saw that with Jermaine last year too a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to take time, and that's hopefully like knock on wood you have Jared Verse for 2 years. I think that's the sweet spot for him. That means if you have him for 3 years, that means something went wrong with the development. If you have him for 1 year, I guess that maybe means something went really, really right, but that puts you back in the portal for a defensive end again, probably. Have you seen that too, Kev, from Verse, like that explosiveness when you've been out there?
Yeah, he's really just a different level of athlete and that's what you expect out of your defensive end, right? Like if you ask people that are around football, in my personal opinion, the defensive end is the most athletic position, right? You've got to have explosiveness, strength, size, length. And he stands out. I saw him the other day. He was coaching up another defensive end on some moves and stuff. So that was a really cool thing to see, that he's stepping in and kind of taking a little bit of a leadership role that people are looking to him. It is clear to me that at first he was getting some favorable matchups in some of the 7-on-7 situations, and it kind of made him look probably too good. But I think you're still going to see a drop off, obviously, from what Jermaine was giving you last year. But the kid's an athlete. Like my favorite clip of him I put in the video was the clip of him almost chasing down the Syracuse running back from the backside. So he just takes off. Like this kid, he's that big and he's running like a 4.6 40 and 4.5 40, just like
the Syracuse running back is the best or the most productive running back in the conference too. It wasn't like some slappy third stringer that he was doing that to. Kev, you have a good eye for talent. That was the play that apparently when FSU was scouting for Syracuse, they saw that play specifically, and they're like, all right, if that kid enters the portal, we are going in on him. And that ended up being a huge deal. They got in early on him because they knew exactly who he was, and that relationship worked out. So the maturity brought up, the work ethic, listen, the scheme stuff and some of the techniques, it's going to be a work in progress, but he's
It'll come.
very likely going to get there. I agree. So
It'll come.
we're doing D-Mac and Jared Verse as a tandem, right? We're cheating like when I do a list on Knowles 24/7. All right. So we'll go quickly here for the last two. I will nominate. It's not going to be a super sexy pick from like a physical standpoint, but I think people are going to really be impressed with Tatum Bethune's ability
that was
to
the other
play.
one.
Was that all right? Yes, took it. I stole it. That's the name of the game. You got to steal it and break someone's heart. Why were you going to have Tatum Bethune on the list, Kev?
Oh, the kid has. So I think we on our channel and kind of the analysis that we do have been harsher on the linebackers, and I think a lot of other outlets or a lot of other people have chosen to be. It might be because a particular one of them is from Tallahassee and is a fan favorite. But it might be because, we're watching the film and we get to see it multiple times where the linebackers have really kind of left the defensive backs out to dry. So like, I'm going to go to the whiteboard here. So like,
Are you talking about 2021 as well? Because the 2020 was an abomination for linebacker play, but 2021
it improved
was...
last year, right? Kalen DeLoach came in, and I thought was a huge improvement personally. So the way Florida State plays, a lot of their, so like if you give Florida State a trips look, right? So you have three receivers to one side. What they're going to do is they're going to cheat this safety, this backside safety over here, and they're going to play what's called solo, which basically means that this guy's just man on man here. He has very little safety help, right? So in essence, Fuller wants to be able to have one guy that's on an island that he trusts. And unfortunately, when this guy's on an island all by himself, it means that he's got to be able to defend anything deep or anything over the middle. So where Florida State's been beat a lot in the recent past is either by having running backs release out into the flat and having linebackers chase them, or by having teams run over the middle like this, and these linebackers are just deficits in coverage to the point where they're unable to get underneath these guys and make life easier, right? The corners can't defend everything. They have to have some amount of help on the inside on some of these routes. So I think that Tatum Bethune has an instinct for coverage. While he might not be the fastest guy if you lined him up on a 40, he has good footwork. He tends to. We watched a fair amount of film of him when he first committed. I think what stands out about him more than anything is he has a really good sense of where to be on the field. He does a good job of backing up in coverage, getting underneath those routes when it's necessary, and he's got a good nose for the football.
I agree. And he does the straight line speed. I think if you have to see him like open up in space is where he maybe gets exposed a little bit, but hopefully he's not doing that a ton. What he does do well, and we've seen that like even like in they'll do like a cat and mouse drill at the start of practice, and you have to kind of run around a cone and thud with a ball carrier who's also running around the cone. He'll beat the ball carriers around the cone, like the first little loop that he does. So he has some good short area speed and change of direction ability, which is really what you want in a linebacker. So cool. I think we're all on the same page that he is someone that we're looking for. Because I nominated someone and then I stole it from Kev. AB, I will let you have the final honors to nominate. Maybe get us a clean sweep of 5 here. We could move on to the final segment of the show.
I guess I was going to say Micah Pittman earlier. I don't think I'm going to say him again.
No.
It's between he and Johnny Wilson, right? I mean, I guess I'll go with Micah. I think that fans are going to be. First off, I think that perhaps the staff is surprised at the level of play that they've gotten from Micah this spring, and I know that there is a stigma out there that he is a bit of a practice player or a practice All-American. So we'll see what happens when lights come on. But I mean, he's been a consistent performer throughout the spring, especially after that first week. He's a guy that just makes plays, right? And I mean, I know I've heard that they're very pleased with what he's become competitively, consistency-wise. I do worry that he's catching a lot of passes from maybe not Jordan. But I don't think that in the grand scheme of things that really is going to end up mattering.
Touchdown
I think He,
No, we're not going to get into the quarterback. We're not
he
going to do
is
the
the
victory
guy,
lap now.
but Micah is a guy who they're going to be able to game plan. They're going to be able to do things with him, create punt return like situations for him in the offense with quick screens and stuff like that. And we've seen some of that in the videos that have come out in the 2-minute offense stuff that they did at the beginning of practice. So I have a lot of optimism for what he's going to be able to do. He obviously needs to transition into the games now and get it done and stay healthy, because I do think injuries have been a part of his problem, or were a part of his problem in Oregon.
I remember watching him early on, or not early on, when he first committed. So early on when he first committed, I guess. But I watched a couple of games of him at Oregon, and remember just thinking to myself, it was only like a 2-game sample size, but like I feel like schematically or just personnel usage wise, like they were leaving a lot on the table for him in terms of like when they got him the ball, he did good things, and I thought he was a willing blocker on the perimeter for a little guy. That was some of the feedback I got from sources inside the program. Like when he committed, was like they thought he was going to be a dirty work player. He's going to be able to do a lot of things at a above average level. What's been a pleasant surprise is, and we did get that feedback of him being like a practice All-American, and it wasn't even like, it wasn't meant to be a pejorative term. It's just he did crazy things in practice and wasn't getting those opportunities necessarily in games. There's a couple clips where he makes some crazy catches in games. He doesn't get a whole lot of at-bats though. But I think what has stood out to me is the ability to make plays vertically in practice with some level of regularity. Like there's something maybe daily where he makes a contested catch, either like on a fade concept or just something downfield where he's doing something acrobatic where you say, oh yeah, that's a little different than what we've seen the last couple of years. And so I like that nomination. Plus, think about it. It's going to be Saturday evening. It's going to be a little chilly out in Tallahassee, probably about 60 degrees. The lights are going to be on at Doke around 6 p.m. The sun's going to be setting. It's going to be the end of the first quarter of the spring game. People are going to be a little antsy, maybe a little bored. It's probably going to be like 3-0. The quarterbacks aren't in a groove yet. And then the punt team comes out. And it's not going to be live. You're not going to be able to return it
here.
But they're going to punt it. Master Mono's going to boom one. It's going to go 60 yards. He's going to have to, and he's not going to have the mullet anymore, Mastro. So he's going to be aerodynamic as he punts the ball. And Micah Pittman is going to be like 50 yards back. And then he's going to say, oh no, I have to backpedal. And he's going to backpedal so smoothly. He's going to go like this. He's going to catch it. And the crowd of like 25,000 people is going to go, ah. That's why he's
what a beautiful story.
It is a hell of a bonus, and it's so sad that we have to be so excited about a guy catching a freaking punt.
Yeah, it was a killer last year when someone didn't.
Oh boy, that Florida game will give you some agita. All right, so recapping: Trey Benson 1, Azareye'h Thomas 2, a tie with DMAC and Jared Verse. It wouldn't be a list that I'm doing without cheating and taking liberties and putting two guys at one spot.
Right, I kind of want to put a second guy.
Go ahead.
Can we spend like a minute talking about Johnny Wilson Jr.?
You're gonna talk about him dropping the ball sometimes.
He better be able to catch the football consistently.
That's so disappointing.
Kev noticed. I'll give this to you. You noticed something that irritated you with his wardrobe on.
Okay, so I actually noticed this twice. When I was watching the film. I was gathering the clips that we're gonna do later. He was wearing gloves early on, and I guess he was dropping balls. And then last practice we saw he wasn't wearing gloves. So I guess he's getting desperate, trying to figure out how he can hold on to footballs.
Michael Jackson next, one glove, and see if that works. Can we make Michael Jackson jokes in 2022? I don't know if that's okay.
I think it's been enough time.
Okay.
The kid's a freak athletically, but if you can't catch the ball, like...
What's his hit rate for catching the ball? I mean, in a practice, he gets 7
routes
balls
on air, 95%.
So Tuesday was a particularly bad day, and I think there was 2 to 3 drops, but like the drops were just like, they were layups that maybe they weren't wide open, but like those are ones you expect your big physical receiver to come down with. It hasn't been like this glaring, like, oh, you can't play him type of deal, but I think Tuesday was probably a low point that maybe kind of makes you start reflecting on some of the consistency. If it wasn't a problem at Arizona State, I wouldn't be that bothered by it right now. But the fact that he did have some drops at his previous stop, that is something that is going to be like, all right. And some other feedback that we got too on him was like that sometimes, and you see these great, that I'm sure why Kev wants him on this list is because, and I guess I'll let him be a tie with Micah Pittman, but is that he does make some really freaky athletic catches downfield on fades, like that he at 6'7" to be able to turn and adjust the ball like he does is impressive. but he does play a little small sometimes too, where he can kind of disappear, get boxed out. I think maybe more than like Sam McCall did some really good work on him in practice a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, excuse me. Sam McCall is still growing a lot technically, and while he has some impressive physical tools, you would expect your third year wide receiver, or is it fourth year now for I think third year for Johnny Wilson to win that matchup more often than he lost it in one-on-one, and that didn't happen. So
But I
Johnny
think
strikes me as a kid that if he can't get into his stride, he's going to struggle. Meaning, if he can't get a free release, he's going to have a hard time.
I think that seems like that's kind of what it was at Arizona State too.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, 6'7", he's a tight end. I mean, they can call him whatever the hell they want. He is a tight end, body wise, athletically. Probably can run a little bit better, but that's what he is at that height. I mean, that's just kind of how you have to utilize him, and I think that's what the plan will be. And when I say tight end, I don't mean line up with his hand in the dirt on the line of scrimmage, or
you mean
or
like
off the ball in like an H-back role, but in compressed formations with doubles on each side, a guy that's they bring him closer to the ball, or on the backside of the trips when they have that flex. They're going to treat that kind of what they did with Josh Burrow last year. They're going to treat that kind of tight endish and create mismatches in the run game with that bigger player.
Yeah, I think people are going to leave the spring game thinking, if this kid can figure it out, he athletically stands out. And I think, yeah, top end, you see him, I forget the kid's name, but the guy that played that kind of flex role for Miami a couple years ago. You kind of see him doing that and just being kind of elite as this kind of hybrid player, hybrid wide receiver, tight end. But if you're unable to catch the ball, it doesn't really matter how physically gifted you are.
All right, so I was writing down the list so that way I can steal it and use it on Knowles 24/7 later this week.
Yeah, we better get some commission.
Let's get some film up here.
Let's get some film. Let's get rolling on the film. Yep, let's get going.
Yeah, so I guess we should preface this by saying if you're listening to this on the podcast, you are free to continue listening, but the experience may be better if you switch over to the YouTube channel where you can see the film we're watching.
And where can they? What is the YouTube channel so that they can find that, Kevin?
So this is going to be on X's and Knowles. So that's the channel, and the show is the triple option. So
you guys have to do something about that. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you're allowed to be on the bench that writes for 247 Sports. So
Knowles 24/7 presents On the Bench, an
X's and
football
Knowles
podcast. Get it right.
Triple option.
X's and Knowles presents the triple option. There you go.
We go.
I did have anxiety about that. Shockingly, before the show, I was like, the triple option. I had to write it down on my notepad here to make sure that
it's
I would
all right.
say the right
It's
thing.
only one of the most common plays of football history.
This is early on. They're working some quarterback run game here. This is like from day one of practice. We can see AJ Duffy pull the ball.
I like Kev being a dick, by the way.
It's more just the sarcasm.
It's a good look. It's a good look for him.
So you got a bluff block here by Jackson West. That's Jackson West, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a concept I've seen a lot. I think Johnny Wilson's doing a stalk release. I've seen this a few times. They'll throw the ball to him for this.
Yeah, if he pulls it, that's an optional read of a downfield. You actually see that later on.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes the right read here. Looks like a defensive end. Ooh, got some weird artifacts.
Uh-oh.
The defensive end bit, so he thinks he can pull and get the corner. And he's got that lead blocker, Jackson West, ahead of him.
Yeah, closes a little quick for him. That's a freshman kind of learning the speed of the game, maybe.
Well, here, look, you see it. It's because he tucks it. He tucks it early. There's a read here, right? Johnny Wilson releases downfield. If this guy bites up, he has to throw this ball, and he misses that read.
Yeah.
Because he makes his decision to run too early.
Right. You can't tuck this ball. So look, right here, watch Johnny Wilson. He throws him down. He's looking for the ball. He pulls it, and he should be reading this guy. If he bites, he throws it over his head.
His eyes aren't even in that area.
Yeah, he pulls it, and he's looking down.
Okay. They do like AJ Duffy. There is a hope that he doesn't have to play this year.
It was kind of see the same concept again working out here.
Yeah, but they're
And that's where you get to see, and that's why I call him a tight end. I mean, you get to see he's physical, kind of throws by and then releases.
but
And that's not something you consistently get from Malik McLean's not doing that a ton, I don't think.
Johnny has like his PFF stuff at Arizona State as a
Incredible.
blocker was really good. Yeah,
He's going to be a threat out there as a blocker.
Yeah, I think so.
Boot game. This is something we've seen a little bit more here through.
a fair amount of boots,
which I like.
Spring, yeah. I mean, if you're building the offense around Jordan Travis, right? In mind,
yeah. Especially with the pistol stuff, you hide the back. You are able to, that's one of the main benefits of the pistol is being able to work boot game off of it because you hide the ball.
Yeah, I mean, watch what Louisville does. This is their whole offense.
Yeah. Clean reads, right, for the quarterback usually too out of that. Like it's going to be a lot of stuff.
The only negative is you get into half field stuff, which you're eliminating some options.
Right. And this is, I mean, he doesn't really have anywhere to go with this ball, so that's not terrible placement.
DJ Lundy in coverage. How about that, guys?
Yeah, let's look at that.
Because he's actually been fairly.
He's moving better. He's lost some weight, and I think all the linebackers are. So that's an encouraging sign. Our biggest complaint with the linebackers was that they were slow, and so losing a little bit of weight, moving a little bit more fluidly is always a good thing. All right, so I think you're going to get a little bit less out of the running game early on. So we might want to try to jump until there's pads.
Yeah. I had us chatting. We're behind schedule, I think, anyway. So it's I'm cool with us moving things along if we have to.
All right,
here we go. Pads, just like that. Just like that.
Magic. Movie magic. All right. So
here's Caden. Lyles is inside at center there. I feel like you notice some hesitancy. I think Bryson Estes at right guard. There's a name to know, right? I mean, maybe for the season, potentially.
He may be in that top 8 rotation very well.
Yeah, but you're seeing Daltrey Richardson in there. I mean, some guys that you really don't want to rely on this year.
Zane Herring is at left guard, I believe.
Yeah, Bless Harris is at right tackle. He oversteps and then gets beat inside by Jared Verse.
And Daltrey Richardson does. I heard mixed things about like his body composition coming out of Miami Central, but he looks like there's something to work with there.
That's good. He kind of reminds me of Darius Washington a little bit.
I can see that. He may be honestly a little bit longer than Darius too, which would be
very beneficial.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Is this Verse making this play?
That's Pat Payton 56.
Pat Payton.
And he might have been, if that list was extended to 10 guys, he may have been on the list of 10. He's been solid this spring.
Solid play. On the front side, it looks like Tate misses this read.
Yeah.
Yeah, this defensive end crashed a little bit too hard. He should pull this. And then Gainer's kind of coming up on him, which means there should be another read out here since he doesn't have a lead
triple
blocker.
Option concept. Yeah.
All right. Nice little patient run by Toafili.
That's what he needs to be able to do. Was what killed him last year. He lost that concept of taking the free 1 or 2 and understanding that that's a good play.
Yeah, it seemed like he was pressing a little bit, that he was trying to make something big happen all the time.
Yeah,
Marcus and Douglas is it? So screen to the left, it's the tight end to the play side there. Yeah, let's watch. It looks like he loses the block.
And again, this is probably day 3 of practice. First day in pads.
Yeah, here's the block on.
Bless does a nice job getting up on Dix. That's promising.
It looks like, is this Malcolm Ray?
Malcolm Ray.
Yeah, he wins inside. That's kind of what blows this play up, I think.
Probably could have been another name we could have had on the list.
Yeah, that's a Chris Nee favorite there.
All right.
More boot action.
I have a feeling this is a read.
Well, it's not boot. It's sprint.
I mean, these linemen are going downfield. That makes me think that this is a read.
It's tough to know for sure without being able to see the entire picture.
The reads to hand it off potentially.
Yeah, so it's again a triple option concept where he can, in my opinion, this is what I'm looking at, is he can either hand it, keep it, and then he's got a little out route on the outside that he throws. That's the third read off the apex player, so the guy that's right outside the box. Yeah, it's a good play. I mean, you pick up 5 yards, easy pitch catch.
Safe throw too. Yeah.
Catch. Do span.
Yeah, how do you feel about span?
I feel like you could see the athleticism and the deep speed very, very quickly, but he does not look like a natural receiver right now to me.
Yeah.
Which we knew he was kind of a project, but I think I was like, hey, maybe you could have him as a field stretcher this year. I'm not even sure if you'll be able to have him game ready in time for that.
Who is this at right tackle?
Right tackle?
71.
71 would be Chris Williams, who's a walk-on from Tallahassee area. It's a big old hole.
It's a left tackle.
Oh, sorry, left tackle. Yeah, I was backwards.
Yeah, I'm seeing some walk-ons in there.
Yeah, this looks like third. Well, we're not allowed to talk about it.
It looks like
one of those lines.
Third practice.
That's it. That's it. There's AZ.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, just fighting.
Yeah.
All right.
He's always, even if he gives up a play, like I feel like he's always in position. Like there's nothing easy. There's no layups with him.
Oh, that's good. Look, he can nice little frame of the wide receiver looking up, and he turns around.
Playing it, yeah.
That's a pretty advanced
ball skills. Well, shit.
And he's got good hands. He played wide receiver in high school, and that shows too.
Yeah, most of his clips in high school were wide receiver. All right, we got some goal line stuff.
Jay tracking the ball well. A little run play inside.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Well, they're working play action off of it. It's obviously a read for him, but
who's he reading?
Warner.
Warner.
Yeah.
All right, so what's happening?
Is he what is he making the right?
What's interesting if he is reading Warner, he makes a bad read here.
Bad read,
yeah,
because Warner looks like it crashes, right?
Yep. Tate's hesitant to pull this ball. He has been basically since he's been here. This guy looks like he's going to come around and block him. That would be split zone, and that wouldn't be a read, right? That's a very common play nowadays. But what this guy's actually doing is what's called a bluff block. So it looks like he's going to block him, but he's actually wrapping around to this this linebacker.
He's coming to set a pick on the linebacker so that
so if he pulls, it's a touchdown.
And you also get 9 releasing out.
Yeah,
it's a triple option thing here too.
Oh, so if he keeps
actually Toafili's coming to block also. So
yeah, I think this is 100% a touchdown if he makes the right read here.
If he keeps it, he has numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care how slow you are. That's a pull.
A little sprint action.
This is the rope really he puts out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that play.
How's Pokey looked?
How's Pokey looked? If he's going to be your third or fourth wide receivers, we kind of prognosticated like thinking that would look okay. I think we've seen that would look pretty okay. Like that would be solid. This is I remember watching this live and thinking it was a nice rope that Tate put this on like while on the run. Just nice, crisp, clean pass where it needs to be. Good zip.
Yeah, it's an underrated throw. I mean, other hash on a line and a pocket. It's just a good call against man coverage, right? So this guy has to navigate. I think this is Sidney Williams. He just gets kind of picked off, right? That's why they call these plays in the red zone. Clemson won a national championship on this.
That's they used that last year against North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I think they scored some concept similarly. That's J-Trav now.
Oh, here's that same play.
Oh,
they use a lot more motion than they did with Kenny as offensive coordinator. And I know it's still Mike's offense, but I feel like some things have changed.
Yeah, it does look different. They're getting the quarterbacks on the run a little bit. I think with Duffy,
it makes some sense with Atkins.
I was gonna say is that Atkins did that with he had triple option stuff, right? Like at Tulane.
What's interesting, okay, so one thing I didn't notice on the first few viewings, look, McDonald sells this as a bluff block. Like you can see if I go forward a few frames, He's looking like he's going to block here.
Breaking down.
And then he releases and he actually gets the ball thrown to him. So this is like a fake block.
It's like a stick kind of like where he,
I mean, I would call it a shoot route, but I don't know what other people call it.
Weird.
I think the expectation is for him to block. I don't think I think it's
he just ends up turning around.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a busted play.
Either way, it's
I was
interesting.
gonna say, that's an awful lot going on inside the red zone.
Yeah.
Got a false start.
If that is
Tunnel screen.
Tutty. Douche or no douche, Tutty.
I don't get the reference.
It's not. It's saying tutty douchey. Like if you call it a tutty instead of a touchdown.
Oh yeah.
I find myself doing that, and I feel like an ass every time I do it.
I think it is.
Okay.
Just to be safe. All right. This might be
this is opposite angles. It's the same plays, opposite angles.
Oh, this is a different play.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that YY with the touchdown?
This is a mesh down in the red zone.
Yep, red zone mesh.
Come on, no excitement for mesh.
Well, here's the deal. Some of the people listening might not know my obsession with mesh. Mesh is my favorite play.
You should have seen this guy on Tuesday talking about mesh.
You know, it's one of those plays that's good against everything. And the key to seeing it is you'll see these two receivers crossing over the middle of the field. If they're being real cute with it, they'll have the wide receivers slap hands across the middle of the field. That's what I really like. I like when they get cute with it, but
there's no cuteness here. There's no time for that.
Mesh is cute. All right. So
keep her rolling.
Keep them rolling.
We're just going to breeze right by White Rector touchdown, huh? Okay.
Oh, it's because it's so normal now.
That's true.
Best tight end.
Brendan, you told me tight end 1, right?
I'm not even sure if I started off as a joke, but I kind of started believing it now, to be honest.
He might be tight end 2 currently, which is...
He's definitely tight end 2.
Something.
Is this Philly?
Yeah, I think it's still Philly.
He looks more decisive, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Even if he's cutting, it's like cutting with purpose, if that makes sense.
This looks like outside zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's just pressing outside, trying to find a hole, kicking out field.
A lot of somebody. I can't tell who it is though.
They really haven't run a lot of outside zone recently, so it'll be interesting.
Run a lot of outside zone. Period. When we thought that was going to be a staple of the run game.
Right. I remember the very first preseason show we did. Our first year we did it was Norvell's first year, and we're like, "What's the first touchdown?" And everybody wanted outside zone, but he really hasn't run it. So it's interesting to see it more and more in these practices.
Their running game became so limited last year as the year went on with the blocking.
For some reason, Sonnone decided to slow motion this when he put it up on 247 Sports.
Did I really? That's really cool graphic.
Yeah, I have no idea why this got slow motioned.
This is the same play that we just. Is this the same play we just saw?
No, this is some sort of gap scheme.
This is pin and pull.
Okay.
So you see the front side guard is going to pull around here. They're going to pin with the tackle. They're going to pin with that wide out there. They're going to, in theory, they'll kick that corner with the guard, and then run up underneath of it.
Is that cam blocking, getting a good angle there, right? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's a good block for cam.
This is some of what I've talked about, though, with the compressed formations. They run that compressed twins there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you would like to have Johnny Wilson here instead of...
Well, yes, I would.
Little Ontario Wilson.
That may have been when he missed a little bit of time there.
Yeah, it might be around that time.
It was perhaps limited.
But this was a really good read here by Toa Philly.
Really good block. Is that Cam or is that Douglas? That's a really good block.
God.
It looks like Cam.
It's hard to tell. It's tough to tell. I think it's Cam because Douglas looks like an offensive lineman.
And Gibbons cleans up.
I think it's Cam. It's got the short shorts.
I think the block that seals this is Gibbons pulling around on
Deloach.
Yeah, Kalen Deloach, and just really sealing this hole.
Green's a little too quick up the field there.
I like the slow motion. I wish they were all slow motion, man.
I didn't know that I did that. Wow, it's probably.
I think that was actually a Brett move.
Probably that is vintage Brett.
On that one play. I actually think we have another angle of this too. For whatever reason, you included two two angles of one missed throw by Jordan Travis. It seems like you're trying to make a narrative over here. So
Narrative. Yeah. I'm on team Tate.
Timing throw, right, Kev?
Yeah, this is just, you see you got man coverage, you throw it before the safety gets over here. McLean needs to win off this line. He gets held up by Renardo Green.
Should that be a PI? Like, he looks pretty handsy there, no?
Depends. I don't think so.
I think we're going to see a lot of Renardo being aggressive and maybe over-aggressive, whether it's coverage or run game. I think that's going to be with Renardo, like the give and take there is he's going to be going 100 miles per hour, but there's going to be some.
That's good because I think you're really, really good at safety. So
that's true.
I mean, he was playing safety last year, so that kind of.
I think they'll clean some of that up.
You know, guys, I've always heard you would rather say "whoa" than "giddy up." I'd rather say "whoa" than "giddy up." It's my Jimbo. It's also George W. Bush.
So this looks like outside zone, other than the fact that he's pinning this guy and they're wrapping him.
Well, you want to know what this is? This is the freaking Clemson play that Clemson killed him with last year. It's outside zone with a pin and pull concept on the backside.
Clemson was reading this.
Maybe they were.
They were reading the one tech. They were reading Robert Cooper when he was
Robert Cooper. That one drive.
Yeah, they just ran that midline over and over.
Just sealed. They just watched everything.
So it's that same concept, but they sealed them instead of reading them.
Off of. Well,
it's a nice concept.
Good space.
I expect a little. I do fully expect this year more diversity out of the run game.
Yeah, if we're seeing stuff like this, that's fun. That'll make. So we do post game film reviews and we watch all the plays, and it'll be fun to have some new running plays like this to break down. This is a
nice
cool
job
concept.
By the entire offensive line there.
I just cut to our faces.
Oof. The whole offensive line, like everyone's got a hat and a hat there too. Guys getting out in space. Like look at Darius, find someone to block. Boop.
And what's kind of cool about this is it looks like the gap they're trying for is this backside A gap. But by having this center sprint out, it's almost forcing this nose tackle to run himself out of that gap. So you see him trying to. So these tackles are kind of taught to stay level with him and try to keep him from pinning him outside. So you see him kind of run him out of this play, and it really opens up that gap. Sorry, I think that's just interesting.
It's tough to keep tracking in the back. All right, Kev, I think we've we're working on like an hour plus here.
Yeah, we are.
Easily. That might be my influence. I always tell when we're starting on the bench recording, hey guys, just need 30 minutes from you today. And it's always an hour.
Well, let's end on a completion by Jordan Travis here. How's that sound?
Yeah, we don't want the narrative to be anti-J Trav.
Good shot of Derek, or is that Briggs? No, McClellan's 9 now, right?
Yeah.
Good shot of McClellan versus Robert Scott.
We see the movement skills we talked about. That's why he was AB's first pick. Watch just more fluid, more explosive off the line.
Yeah.
If he's not getting there.
He looks quicker. He looks a lot quicker.
Yep.
That's a nice reset by Robert Scott.
I think he's done a really good job with that this spring of playing in control more.
I would have liked to seen a spin off of this by McClendon. I think that if he's got that in his game, he wins this. But that's nice. That's really
like
nice.
A spin instead of the hand move.
A spin back out.
Okay.
Like at this point in the pass rush process,
yeah, right around there. I think he beats him.
That'd be really solid college combo to be able to stack the. So he stabs outside like he's going to speed rush. Then he's going to work
because he's opened him there. He's opened his hips up. He's got that foot, and Scott's really not in great position there. His base is a little wide. Now he goes to work underneath, and there Scott's lunged. He's a little out of position, but see, he knocked him off his.
Yeah, he did.
He's knocked him off balance here. That's good heavy hands by Scott.
Yeah, I'm impressed because I think even that first move was a good move by McClendon. I think he's going to win with that a decent amount of times. So that's pretty impressive by Scott.
And I think you almost see he maybe is going for
he is
back out, but
you can't get
but he's already lost his balance by that point.
When I presented the question earlier to Kev, who we thought the most consistent offensive lineman was, I think Gibbons was a good call, but I really asked the question so I could say Robert Scott and answer it myself, and I forgot to do that. So I have liked Robert Scott quite a bit this spring. I think him and Gibbons is real solid left side of the line, so feel okay with that. Woo! That was fun, guys.
We have so much more film to watch, but we'll have to save it for another time.
Oh, hey, I just gave you got post spring content now. You're gonna have to kill the time in the summer somehow. You're welcome.
Yeah, let's go back to spring practices and break down some more film.
All right, how do we normally end things here? If you guys listen to me on the bench, you know I'm awful at ending it. So this is kind of my weakness that we've entered here.
Usually, what happens is Trey tells me that I look like crap. And that my house looks like crap.
Kev, his dog's behind him. Patreon, Kev's poor.
Yeah, there it is.
Wrestling reference, douchebags.
That's the general gist. Yeah.
How about we end it? Just with a thank you to you, Brendan, for coming on as guest host. This is something over the last, I would say over the last year, we've all become very friendly with one another, and it's been a pleasure to have you on here with us tonight. We're obviously big fans of your work at 24/7 and on the bench. I'm an avid listener. I listen to everything you guys put out, read all your content. So yeah, I mean, thank you to you for coming on.
Yeah, this was big.
Kind of driving the ship tonight.
Oh, no need to thank me, guys. It's my pleasure. No, if I could return the ball washing, I love what you guys do. It is when this was presented, I was like, yes, absolutely. I will make time. I will always find time to be on the triple option presented by X's and Knowles, presented by TomahawkNation, because you guys do have such a good dynamic, and legitimately you've done something in the FSU space that no one else has done. You've done it at a really high quality. So kudos to you. Kudos to me for kind of weaseling my way in there for a couple episodes. This is what it's all about. All right. So let's wrap it up then. So for the triple option for today's episode, I'm Brendan Sonnone. I will be back next week. It'll be Trey Rowland. I'm sure if he has not done any nerdy podcasts that prohibit him from
I hope he can make our film review next week, but who knows?
But check out, these guys will, I imagine, be doing the spring game film review.
Yep.
Fair assumption.
Yep.
All right. So check it out. The triple option on X's and Knowles on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on the bench, check out our podcast for recruiting preview for the big weekend coming up on Friday. So we got a loaded weekend on that as well. So guys, thank you for having me. Cheers. Goodbye. Bourbon on a Budget as well.
Keep
Another
on
podcast
shopping.
you can check out.